This is Democracy Watch. Marc, we have seen for the last few weeks that the federal judiciary has really served as the most effective bulwark against this administration. We're now seeing something that I find especially interesting coming out of these opinions written by judges. So I'm going to put a few of those quotes right here on the screen. An American president is not a king, a federal judge in D.C. slipped into an opinion on Thursday. Another judge in Rhode Island said, "This is what it all comes down to. We may choose to survive as a country by respecting our Constitution, the laws and norms of political and civil behavior, or we may ignore these things at our peril." And a judge in Seattle declared, "It has become ever more apparent that to our president, the rule of law is but an impediment to his policy goals." So, Marc, how unorthodox are statements like these in federal opinions, and what do you think it means that this is what we're seeing these opinions peppered with right now?
I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, I want everyone to take a step back for a moment, okay? A federal judge felt the need to put in an opinion that an American president is not a king. Okay. I mean, I want that to wash over you for a second and realize how abnormal that is. I mean, just imagine any other president doing anything that would elicit that response. Right. I mean, whatever people may have thought about President Obama or President Bush or President Biden or President Clinton, no one was accusing them or thinking that they were a king. They may have thought that they were misguided. They may have thought they overreached, right? Those are words, misguided, overreached, unlawful, that judges use because they are judicial words. Saying that the country may choose to survive, or that the president is not a king, or that the president sees the rule of law as an impediment. I mean, that is breathtaking language for a federal judge to use, no less multiple federal judges to use. And you're right, we have seen this now in these instances and others. I mean, remember, we saw a judge excoriate DOJ lawyers for even bringing some of these arguments to his courtroom. Again, extraordinary. I mean, as someone who litigates against Department of Justice lawyers, I oftentimes feel like they've started on third base when I get up to bat. The government carries so much sway with judges that you look at the criticism that they're getting, and it's just unbelievable how much they have squandered of their goodwill. It is amazing how quickly Donald Trump has turned himself from presumptively executing the laws faithfully, which is his oath, to now being viewed with so much suspicion that they think he may have aspirations to disregard the law and be a king. It is a big deal that judges are doing this, but they're doing it for good reasons.
Marc, I do have to correct you on one thing. Right-wing media called Barack Obama a king, or trying to be a king, called him a dictator because they said that he was passing too many executive orders. He passed 276 in his term, which incidentally is fewer executive orders than his immediate predecessor, George W. Bush. It's also fewer than Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter and Richard Nixon and LBJ. But apparently when Barack Obama did it, that was akin to a dictator.
I think there was something about the color of his suit.
Yeah, I think that might have factored in somewhere too.
Had Republicans very upset.
Well, to that exact point, I mean, I know we say this tongue-in-cheek, but what do you think that right-wing media would be saying if the tables were turned? If a judge felt it necessary to include in his or her opinion that the president of the United States is not nor should be a king in this country, what do you think right-wing media would say? What do you think the Jonathan Turleys of the world would say if they saw some opinion that was handed down by a judge in response to a Democratic president's actions?
Yeah, let's just roll the tape back like a year. And let's assume that it was, Joe Biden in the White House, still running for president, and he issued some policy or executive order, and a judge said that that an American president is not a king. They would start impeachment proceedings, is what they would do. I mean, like Mike Johnson, who is the speaker, would be saying, this is a constitutional crisis. Joe Biden has been referred to by a federal judge as a king. We need to look into this. Jim Jordan would be holding hearings. There'd be a full theater going on. And on right-wing media, this is all you'd hear about over and over and over and over again. And that's just the reality of the problem that we have is there is an asymmetry. There's an asymmetry in our politics. There's an asymmetry in our outrage. There's an asymmetry in our willingness and desire, frankly, too often, on the left to find common ground or to give the benefit of the doubt. You know, when I said a few years ago that I don't look to find common ground with Donald Trump on voting rights because there is no middle ground between an arsonist and a firefighter, I was lambasted. People were like, how could you do this? Next thing you know, the guy's trying to throw a violent insurrection in the Capitol. You know, like that's why I said it, right? I said it because like, what the hell kind of middle ground are you going to find with this guy?
Right.
But there is this double standard in the media, not just in the right wing, but even in the legacy media. I mean, I'll ask you, what do you think the mainstream media would have said if a reporter said that, if a judge said that about Joe Biden? That would lead the news.
Right. I mean, it's just like it always has. Right-wing media will pick up on some story that they know is going to be overtly beneficial for them. That's because they have a right-wing media ecosystem that is expressly intended to be Republican propaganda. We have no equivalent on the left, and the mainstream media, in their desperation not to seem liberal, will take their assignment cues from what the right does. That's how we're left with 69 cover stories about Hillary's emails. And then, of course, when we have national security issues and privacy issues right now, when Elon's Doge Commission is going in and accessing personally identifying information from Americans in the IRS and the Social Security Administration and the Treasury, suddenly, because right-wing media isn't talking about it, the whole story vanishes like a fart in a hurricane because the legacy media is so focused on taking its cues, its assignments from whatever the right wing doles out to them.
Yeah, Brian, that's exactly right. And, you know, I think you said something really important, and it's not about judges, so I know we have to get back to that, but you said something really important, which is, I don't think people realize how much the legacy media takes its cues from Fox and right-wing media. Like people think, okay, there's this like silo of legacy media, respectable mainstream media, and then this silo of right-wing media. But that isn't true. That second group is more like a feeder system into the legacy media, which is why we wind up so often with these fake scandals aimed at Democrats when there is no similar outrage at Republicans.
Right. To that point, we have spoken at length about how the federal judiciary is standing up as a bulwark to the worst excesses of this administration. Where do we stand right now in terms of how effective that judiciary is at blocking off really what the Trump administration is trying to do?
Yeah, so look, it's very easy to get overwhelmed by all of the news of the day. It is very easy to lose track of this case and that case. I get it. There are a lot of cases, you know, by some measures, over 100. We track it at Democracy Docket based on slightly different criteria. We have it lower than that, but it is still dozens and dozens of cases. But here's what you need to know. Donald Trump is losing. Donald Trump has been to the Supreme Court twice and he has lost twice on preliminary orders. The federal judges are getting sick and tired of the nonsense that they are being told by Department of Justice lawyers that turns out not to be true. And they have lost credibility. They are becoming more and more alarmed as the excerpts you read from the court decision, they are becoming more and more alarmed. The thing to look out for, the thing that is sort of right over the horizon is, does one of these judges take it to the next level and say, you know what, I'm not just going to express my displeasure. I'm actually going to hold the government in contempt because it's not following the law. It's not following my orders. And then at that point, do we really see king-like behavior where Donald Trump just says, you know what, I'm not going to follow the law? And that's when we will know we were in a constitutional crisis. It's one of the reasons why I started Democracy Docket and why I ask everyone to subscribe to it.
And I would echo those claims as well, especially in light of what we're seeing based on exactly the point we were talking about with legacy media before. What you've done with Democracy Docket is to stand up a journalistic endeavor that isn't doing what we've seen the legacy media do, which is kowtowing to this administration the second that they took power. You've created an outlet that is engaging in fearless journalism. I highly recommend for anybody watching right now, if you are not yet signed up for Democracy Docket, it's an amazing resource. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. You'll not only get good news, you'll also support a team of people who, again, are fighting for this democracy in a way that we haven't seen from the rest of the media ecosystem. So again, right here on the screen, also in the post description of this video, I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.